I always thought my life with Matt was simple, but good. We weren't the flashy couple who traveled to Europe every summer or posted perfectly curated photos on Instagram. We were more jeans and takeout on the couch kind of people. And honestly, I was fine with that. Our apartment was small, tucked on the second floor of an older brick building. It had a tiny kitchen that barely fit 2 people, a living room just big enough for a worn-down couch and a rickety coffee table. And my favorite part, a window ledge crammed with plants I always forgot to water. It wasn't fancy, but it felt like home. Mostly because I had worked hard to make it cozy, throw blankets, scented candles, secondhand bookshelves filled with novels I hadn't even read yet. Matt moved in about a year after we started dating. He worked at a local auto shop, always coming home with grease stains on his jeans and this lazy, boyish grin that made it hard to stay mad at him, even when he forgot to take the trash out for the 5th time that week. He wasn't exactly ambitious, not like some of my coworkers who spent every spare moment networking or building side hustles. Matt liked to take life slow, sometimes too slow. We didn't talk much about the future, marriage, kids, saving for a house. Anytime I brought it up, he'd crack a joke or change the subject. But back then, I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Not everyone needed a 5-year plan, right? My birthday landed on a rainy Thursday that year. I wasn't expecting anything huge. Maybe dinner at that little Italian place I loved, maybe a cupcake with a candle shoved in it. But when I walked into the apartment after work, the first thing I saw was a bright red envelope on the coffee table. Inside was a card from my parents, and tucked neatly inside was a $300 gift card to Target. We figured you could use it for something fun, my mom had written in her loopy handwriting. Not groceries or bills. Something just for you. I actually teared up a little. It wasn't about the money, it was the thought behind it. They knew I'd been working hard, scrimping and saving, putting away every spare dollar for the future Matt didn't like to talk about. Matt sat on the couch, flipping through channels like he hadn't even noticed me come in. "Hey, babe," he said, not looking up. I waved the card at him, smiling. "Look what I got." He glanced over, offering a quick grin. "Nice." "Happy birthday, Soph." There was something distracted about him. His smile didn't quite reach his eyes. His knee bounced restlessly, and he kept fiddling with the TV remote even though nothing was on. But I told myself he was just tired from work. I didn't want to be one of those girlfriends who read into everything. I tucked the card carefully into my wallet, already dreaming about the things I might buy: a new coffee maker, that cozy sweater I'd been eyeing for weeks, maybe even some fancy skincare products. Life wasn't perfect. Matt wasn't perfect. But sitting there in our cluttered living room, with rain tapping softly against the windows and the faint smell of lavender from my latest candle drifting through the air, I felt content. Maybe that was enough. At least, that's what I told myself. Saturday morning started like most of our weekends. Slow, lazy, and filled with the smell of burnt coffee. Matt was still snoring away in the bedroom while I shuffled around the kitchen, trying to will myself awake with caffeine. The morning sun streamed through the window above the sink, lighting up the tiny counter cluttered with yesterday's dishes. I leaned against the counter, cradling my chipped mug, scrolling on my phone. Somewhere between half asleep and dreaming about pancakes, I remembered the gift card. "You should treat yourself," my mom had said. And suddenly, it hit me. I should order that espresso machine I'd been drooling over for months. I smiled to myself, excited, and set my coffee down to dig through my purse. Wallet, check. Receipts, check. Lip balm, random coins, a broken pen. Check, check, check. No gift card. Frowning, I unzipped every compartment, even the tiny one I never used. Nothing. Maybe I left it somewhere else? I retraced my steps mentally. No, I was sure. I put it in my wallet right after I opened it. I even remembered feeling proud of myself for not just tossing it into the mess on the kitchen table. My stomach twisted a little. I flipped my wallet upside down, shook it out onto the counter. A couple of gum wrappers and an old library card fluttered out. No Target gift card. "Matt?" I called, my voice higher than usual. I heard the creak of the bed, then the shuffle of feet down the hallway. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair sticking up in every direction, rubbing his eyes. "What's up?" he mumbled. I tried to keep my tone light. "Hey, have you seen my gift card? The one my parents gave me?" Matt blinked at me, confused, or at least pretending to be. "Gift card?" "Yeah, the Target one. It was in my wallet, but now I can't find it." He scratched the back of his neck, looking everywhere but at me. No? I mean, I don't think so. I watched him carefully. Matt wasn't exactly a morning person, but something about the way he said it, too quick, too dismissive, put me on edge. You sure? I asked, a little softer. He shrugged, already turning away. Babe, I don't know. Maybe you misplaced it. I opened my mouth to say something else, but he was already disappearing down the hallway. A second later, I heard the bathroom door click shut. And lock. I stood there staring after him, my heart doing this weird, uncomfortable skip in my chest. Maybe he was just tired. Maybe I was being paranoid. But deep down, under the rational excuses I kept piling up in my mind, a small, unsettling thought whispered, something wasn't right. By Sunday, I was still trying to convince myself that I was overreacting. I mean, people lose stuff all the time, right? Especially me. I once found my keys in the freezer, wedged between a bag of frozen peas and a half-eaten pint of ice cream. So, really, losing a gift card wasn't the most shocking thing that could happen. Except, I couldn't shake this gnawing feeling. And the more I thought about it, the more little things started poking holes in my everything is fine theory. Like how, the night of my birthday, Matt had insisted on carrying my purse when we stopped for takeout. At the time, I thought it was sweet, chivalrous even. He slung it over his shoulder with this ridiculous, exaggerated strut that made me laugh so hard I nearly dropped my dumplings. But now that moment played back in my head like a crime reenactment on a bad TV show. And then there was the way he had sat with it next to him on the couch, rummaging through his phone with one hand while the other rested on my bag. At the time, I hadn't thought twice. Now, it felt suspicious. Very suspicious. I chewed on my thumbnail, pacing the living room in my fuzzy socks, the anxiety bubbling higher. Maybe I was being crazy. Maybe it was nothing. But also, maybe it wasn't. I decided I needed evidence. You know, real detective work. Step 1, check Matt's phone. I tiptoed toward the bedroom like a bad sitcom character, half expecting to trip over a chair or knock something over. Matt was in the shower. I'd heard the water running, so I had maybe 5 minutes tops. His phone was on the nightstand, plugged in. I grabbed it and pressed the screen awake, only to be greeted by a password prompt, which wasn't surprising, obviously. What was surprising was that the password was different. I frowned, trying the old one. His birthday, 0712. Nope. Then the default, 00000. Nada. Okay. Maybe he just updated it because of a system update or something totally innocent and boring. Or maybe I was starring in my own personal episode of Cheaters, Amateur Hour. I set the phone back carefully, heart hammering, just as the shower turned off. I retreated to the living room, pretending to study a magazine like a guilty teenager who'd been caught sneaking out. In my head, I joked, and that's when I realized my Nancy Drew skills needed serious work. Because seriously, what kind of detective couldn't even crack a 4-digit code? Still, underneath the sarcastic humor, a deeper feeling lingered, a quiet, growing certainty that something was very wrong. And I wasn't sure if I was ready to find out just how wrong. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the soft buzz of the TV playing some mindless late-night sitcom. Matt was passed out on the couch, one arm flung dramatically over his face, like he was auditioning for a community theater production of Romeo and Juliet. Empty soda can on the coffee table. Socks on the floor. Classic Matt. I sat cross-legged on the armchair, half scrolling through my phone, half staring into space, trying not to overthink. Again. Just talk to him, I told myself. Be mature. Ask directly. But every time I thought about confronting him, my stomach tied itself into a new, more complicated knot. I sighed, tossing my phone onto the chair next to me and grabbing the remote. I was about to turn off the TV and call it a night when a sharp little sound broke the silence. Ding. I looked over. Matt's phone lit up on the couch beside him. I wasn't trying to snoop. Really, I wasn't. It just caught my eye. On the lock screen, clear as day, an Instagram message popped up. From Brianna. Brianna? Matt's coworker. The same Brianna who always laughed a little too hard at his jokes and called me Sophie. You're so lucky, in that fake sweet voice that made my skin crawl. I leaned in before I could think better of it. The message preview glowed like a slap in the face. Thank you for the wonderful gift. You're the best. And right below it, a photo attachment. My fingers trembled as I picked up the phone, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure Matt could hear it even in his sleep. I tapped the message open. The photo loaded in seconds, a luxurious beauty kit, fancy skincare products, designer makeup, the exact set I had been eyeing online for weeks. The exact set I had planned to buy, with my missing gift card. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it, trying desperately to stitch together a version of events where this wasn't what it obviously was. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe Brianna had a different boyfriend named Matt, who also worked at the same garage and also liked to borrow other people's money. Yeah, and maybe I was the Queen of England. Reality slammed into me with brutal clarity. Matt had stolen my birthday gift, and he hadn't even used it on himself. He'd used it to buy a present for another woman. The shock hit first, a cold, hollow feeling spreading through my chest. Then came the disappointment, thick and suffocating. And finally, like a match to dry leaves, came the anger. Hot, immediate, blinding. I sat there, staring at the screen, fists clenched so tightly my knuckles turned white, the words running through my head on a loop. He stole from me. He lied to me. And he cheated on me. I looked over at Matt, still snoring softly, completely oblivious to the firestorm he'd just unleashed. Well, not for long. I didn't wait until morning. I didn't even wait until Matt woke up on his own. I stood up, grabbed the nearest throw pillow, and hurled it squarely at his head. He jerked awake, coughing and swatting at the air like he'd been attacked by a very aggressive seagull. What the hell, Soph? The TV flickered, casting long, ghostly shadows across the room. The only other light came from the street lamps outside, painting everything in a muted, almost surreal glow. Perfect lighting for the end of whatever this was. I held up his phone like a damning piece of evidence. You want to explain this? I asked, my voice trembling, not from fear, but from the barely contained rage vibrating under my skin. Matt blinked at the screen, confusion morphing into guilt so fast it was almost funny. Almost. He sat up slowly, running a hand through his messy hair. Sophie, listen. It's not what you think he started, his voice way too calm for someone caught red-handed. Oh, really? I cut him off, stepping closer. Because what I think is that you stole my birthday gift and gave it to Brianna. You know, the coworker who's apparently a lot more than just a coworker? He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again, like a malfunctioning robot. I wanted to do something nice for her, he finally mumbled, not meeting my eyes. We're friends. She's been going through a tough time, and I thought equal to. You thought stealing from your girlfriend to impress another woman was a good idea? I snapped. Matt flinched, his hands going up in a useless gesture of defense. It's just a gift card, Soph. It's not like it's real money. That did it. I let out a short, humorless laugh, feeling the last fragile threads of patience snap. Right, I said coldly. Because my parents' money and my trust mean nothing to you. He started to say something else, probably another excuse, another weak apology. But before he could get the words out, his phone buzzed again. Another message. From Brianna. I didn't hesitate. I tapped it open right in front of him. Maybe if you were more exciting, he wouldn't need me. Followed by a winking emoji and a kiss. My stomach twisted, but this time not with sadness. No. This time, it was pure, burning fury. Matt saw the message too, and his face paled. Sophie, I swear, it's not serious, he stammered. She's just being stupid. You know how Brianna is. It didn't mean anything. I stared at him, feeling something inside me go very, very still. For a second, it was like I was watching the scene from outside my body, the pathetic excuses, the lies, the utter lack of respect. And something clicked. A new kind of clarity, a cold, sharp resolve that settled into my bones. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to waste another second of my life on Matt and his endless parade of bad decisions. I dropped his phone onto the couch with a dull thud. You're right about one thing, I said, my voice calm and icy. I am more exciting. I'm exciting enough to walk away from a loser who doesn't know what he's lost. And without waiting for a response, I turned and walked toward the bedroom. Time to start packing. The first night without Matt was brutal. I curled up on the couch, my couch now I supposed, wrapped in a blanket that still smelled faintly like the old vanilla candles I used to light when things were better. Or when I thought they were better. It was stupid, really. He wasn't worth crying over. But try telling that to the part of me that still wanted to believe he had been. I let the tears come, silent and hot, soaking into the fleece fabric as the city hummed quietly outside my window. No dramatic sobbing. No screaming into the void. Just sadness. A clean, almost hollow kind of sadness that made it feel like the world had gone just a little bit quieter. I fell asleep on the couch sometime around 3 a.m., emotionally wrung out and absolutely determined that this would be the last time I cried over Matt. The next morning, armed with exactly 2 hours of sleep and 3 cups of coffee, I found a sliver of my old self peeking through the wreckage. Petty? Maybe. Necessary? Absolutely. I opened my laptop, pulled up a payment app, and drafted the most beautiful invoice I had ever created. To Matt for 50% of April rent, plus emotional damages amount, $850 note, payment due immediately. I even added a little party hat emoji for flair. When I hit send, I felt an immediate ridiculous surge of joy. Small victories were still victories. Later that day, I met up with my 2 best friends, Lila and Jess, at a little cafe downtown. The kind of place with mismatched chairs, overpriced lattes, and baristas who looked like they might be in indie bands. I didn't even make it to the table before they both jumped up and enveloped me in a group hug so tight it nearly knocked the air out of me. "Oh, honey," Lila said, pulling back to study my face. "You look like you need a mimosa and a long, aggressive rant session." "Preferably both at once," Jess added, already waving over a waiter. I smiled, a real one this time, feeling the knot in my chest loosen just a bit. Over pancakes and endless coffee refills, I told them everything. Matt, Brianna, the stolen gift card, the late-night tears, the invoice. By the time I finished, we were all laughing so hard the table next to us kept giving us dirty looks. "I can't believe he thought a stolen gift card would buy him a new girlfriend," Jess said, wiping her eyes. "Man's out here playing life on easy mode and still losing." "Seriously," Lila agreed. "You're better off without him, Soph. You're smart, funny, hot. Honestly, he was dragging you down." I tucked a stray piece of hair behind my ear, blushing a little. Not because I didn't believe them, but because for the first time in a long time, I was starting to believe it myself. I wasn't broken. I wasn't unlovable. I wasn't some girl who could be replaced with a gift card and a few cheap compliments. I was Sophie, and I deserved a hell of a lot more. Later that evening, back in my now quiet apartment, I lit a candle, vanilla again, and sat cross-legged on the floor with my laptop open. A new Amazon cart. A new book about moving forward. A ridiculously overpriced face mask. A journal with new beginnings embossed in gold across the cover. A fresh start. Paid for, fittingly enough, by Matt's very prompt rent payment. I hit order with a satisfied click and leaned back, smiling up at the ceiling. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't painless. But it was a beginning. And that was more than enough. It's funny how life has a way of tying up its loose ends when you least expect it. About 4 months after Matt had packed up his things, and to be fair, mostly junk, from our apartment, I found myself wandering through the mall one Saturday afternoon. It was the kind of lazy weekend where you don't really have anywhere to be and end up spending way too much money on candles, iced coffee, and sweaters you definitely don't need. I had just stepped out of a little boutique, a soft paper bag swinging at my side, when I heard it, sharp voices cutting through the easy hum of weekend shoppers. I turned instinctively, and there they were, Matt and Brianna. If karma had a face, it would have been theirs. Matt looked, well, bad. The confident, cocky grin he used to wear was nowhere to be seen. His hair was messy in a not cute way. His clothes wrinkled and tired looking. There were dark circles under his eyes, and he was hunched over like he'd been carrying the weight of his own bad decisions for months. Brianna didn't look much better. Her makeup was heavy, almost desperate, and even from a few feet away, I could hear the edge in her voice. "I told you, Matt. You were supposed to pick up the order. God, do you ever listen?" She crossed her arms and glared at him like he was a particularly disappointing fast food meal. Matt muttered something I couldn't hear, avoiding eye contact like a scolded kid. I stood there for a second, just taking it all in. The beautiful, ironic symmetry of it. The old me might have marched right over there, tossed a snarky comment, maybe even made a scene. But the new me? The new me smiled. A real soft, genuinely unbothered smile. I adjusted the strap of my bag on my shoulder, turned on my heel, and walked away, without saying a word. No drama, no bitterness, just peace. As I sipped my overpriced latte and strolled past shop windows, I couldn't help but think it wasn't about winning. It wasn't even about them. It was about me, about the girl who learned to choose herself, who cried, invoiced, laughed, healed, and kept going. Somewhere deep inside, I knew whatever mistakes I had made by trusting the wrong person, whatever heartbreaks I had collected, they didn't define me. I did. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly deliciously, undeniably free.